Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and this is episode 243. It's a lot of episodes. Listen, I sit down here each and every week and answer your questions. If you have questions, send them to podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. We have a great selection of questions this week, and I'm looking forward to it. Reminder, and it seems to be hard for some people to find, if you have a question, podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com, and you're welcome. Let's get started with a question from Art. He says this: in episode 217, you talk about the what the heck effect with kettlebell swings and mentioned seeing some great games with swimmers. That is some feedback I've gotten from our audience of people who swim. I assume that these are typically pool swimmers, so the distance is fairly short. Have you seen similar impact for longer swim athletes like open water swimmers and long course triathletes? I didn't know there was such a rift in the swimming community, but the one guy, one of the great people in the inner circle I worked with, great master's level sprinter, multiple national world championships, and a real kettlebell enthusiast. When it comes to the what the heck effect, we almost border on the mysterious here, but I've had it happen in my career. Years ago, I was a struggling weight pentathlete, and I had this really bad event, the javelin, and I met Steve Maxwell, and he gave me a couple of kettlebell stretching exercises to do. The most famous would be the halo, and there was a couple other simple ones. And I started doing them in conjunction with my weightlifting. And then later, I started bringing out a kettlebell to the field with me. And I had this idea of mixed training, the great concept from the West German coach, Peter Sheen. And I loved it. So you would do I'm just going to use some examples, but it wouldn't matter the sport. But I would do some standing throws and then some clean and press. I would do some step and turns, discus drill, and then do some snatches. I would do some full turns and do some goblet squats. So maybe 10 throws a round of goblet squats, 10 throws a round of clean and press, something simple like that. And what I began to notice with doing the mobility exercises is I really did become mobile and flexible where I needed to be in the sport. So you can take a million yoga classes, you could do a lot of mobility, and I'm a big fan of mobility work, Tim Anderson's Original Strength. You can do all kinds of stretches, and you can stick your hand on a wall and you can have someone rip you apart with bands, and you can do all kinds of things. But sometimes it just doesn't hit specifically what you need. And I found that the kettlebell halos really just were perfect for my particular javelin throwing needs. Famously, I added 70 feet to my personal record. Now, in all candor, if you're not very good at an event and you improve, well, most people say, well, yeah, of course. So that is the first time I really discovered the what the heck effect. Not long after it, I had my first article published with Dragon Door on the what the heck effect. And there's a famous picture where I'm clearly stunned with the javelin in the air. And so is the official, because the official knew me really well and knew that I was the worst javelin thrower in Weight Pentathlon. But interesting enough, that changed my entire Weight Pentathlon career. So the what the heck effect is when you do something like a kettlebell swing, and then in another area of your life, you go, that seems easier. So the what the heck effect is, to me, the most elegant way of looking at training. The what the heck effect is, you do something over here and it helps over here. Now, a lot of you, and I get it, I get it, where we are in our modern strength and conditioning, everybody wants straight lines. But sadly, athletics performance doesn't always work well with straight lines. So sometimes you just got to say, listen, this worked for me, so I'm keeping it. I've kept kettlebell mobility work in my throwing career since then. We're well over 20 years of using it. I'm a big fan of things. You specifically mentioned swimming. Now, the one thing I can say is that whenever someone does try to lift weights, it does seem to complement swimming. Being stronger always seems to help athletic performance. It's a given. Now, for those of you who know, you also have to make sure you balance that. Now we're talking almost like we're fighter jets, that, weight to power ratio. If you squat 900 pounds, that's probably going to help you as an athlete, unless you weigh 800 pounds. Well, that's probably not the best example I can use, but generally we want to keep our body weight down and get as strong as we possibly can for performance sports. And it's just like a fighter pilot. You want your plane to be as powerful as you possibly can and still keep all the other qualities. And one of the words that leaps out of my head when I think about good fighter planes is nimbleness, that ability to move quickly. I know that James Councilman, the great Indiana swim coach, really began to pursue this with the swimmers. And I know this is materials 50 years ago, but he was very good. He was a real pioneer in swimming and strength training by itself. So I know from his work and his insights that strength training, and I'm just going to do this big vague, strength training helps swimmers, helps runners, helps bicyclists, helps everybody. So my hand just went like this. Specific what the heck effect is a little bit harder to find, but if you read the work of Percy Cerruti, the great Australian track and field coach, he expected his marathon runners to deadlift double body weight. He expected them to bench press body weight. So, in the 1960s, you were expected as an athlete to be just kind of strong to do any event. And when I say a marathoner deadlifting double body weight, I still think that's a pretty impressive thing. I mean, I think that's a pretty good number considering, the mileage they put on and all the other, things that they're asking the human body to endure. When it comes to something specific like this with your question of open water swimmers and lawn course triathletes, the only reason I would say I think yes is the work of Phil Maffetone. Interesting. There's a place online that actually attacked me for me trusting Phil Maffetone's work. I'm a big fan of Phil because just like I think all good coaches, all good trainers, he's a great observer. He sees things. And after a while, the research always says certain things. And then a month later, more research says the exact opposite. And then more research says the exact opposite of the opposite. But when it comes to performance sports, your eyes, your observations are key. I was with my javelin thrower today, and I said, when you watch it, I was talking about one of our throwers, does she look good? And she goes, Coach, I don't know anything about the discus, but it's really, you can just look and see she's a good thrower. And I said, it's funny because one of my little standards of coaching, it's called the Old MacDonald axiom. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, E-I-O. Excellence is obvious. Excellence is obvious. The Old MacDonald axiom. When you see someone, even if you don't even know the sport, but you see someone who's beautiful, elegant, lovely, you just see it and you know what it is. My thought on this little detour I'm taking is, when you have a guy like Phil Maffetone, when you have somebody like Coach Cerruti, when you have any good coach, their observations are important. So with the what the heck effect, my observation would be this. There's no question in my mind that a good triathlete, and of course, Phil Maffetone coached some of the greatest of all time, a good triathlete can use kettlebells and get some of that what the heck effect. Now, some of you listen there and go, well, specifically, how does it work? And that's the mistake I think a lot of people make in strength and conditioning. Sometimes it is a little nebulous. You can't always see why things got better. Sometimes you have to trust your observations. You have to trust what you see. And I got to tell you, folks, that's tough. If I go into a commercial gym and I see a trainer poorly training someone, I can see it with my eyes that the instruction is not good. I I can't always give them the magic wand and fix it, but I can see it. So, Art, I do think the what the heck effect would help in any endeavor that's athletic or physical. Once you start to do some, and I like your point here. We're talking about just simply kettlebell swings here, but there's almost no question in my mind that would help a triathlete, especially the bigger ones, the longer ones. Kettlebell swings really loosen up my hamstrings. Now, why would that be a big deal? Well, when you look at the events of the triathlon, you are sitting in that strained seat for a long time. You're in the saddle a long time. And obviously, you're going to have that kind of fixed range of movement in your cycling. You really want to spin those. When you run, I would like you to run like a track and field athlete, not like one person said, a plotter, a plunk, 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 plunk. One of the things that's going to help you in both of those, of course, is keeping your hamstrings, loose and snappy. We also know that, when you do kettlebell swings, it does wonders for that whole hinge movement, which of course means that your lower back, your butt, and your legs are going to get a nice little dance. And it also teaches you how to plank at the top. I'm a real believer in planking at the top. And of course, any and all abdominal work is great for any and all athletes. So I would say it might be hard to take a pin and say this is why kettlebell swings will help you with your triathlons. It'd be hard to just pin that in there. The two of us, we could probably sit around for a couple hours, Art, and just say, well, this is a good idea, this is a good idea, this is a good idea. And mostly the two of us would kind of nod along and go, yeah, that's a good point. But there's no question in my mind that the what the heck effect, and I think the king of the what the heck effect exercises is the kettlebell swing. There's no question it will help carry over into your triathlon work. I would also say, and just if I could just back off a little bit, that if you do spend some time in whatever your off season is, whatever your early preseason, whatever you call it, if you do focus a little bit on the deadlift, maybe the squat, maybe a few other exercises, and to build your strength up in the off season, and then as you transition into the kettlebell swing, you'll have that extra strength from the deadlift family. And I think that's going to help you across the board. So when I work with long distance athletes of any kind, one of the first things I try to do is get them stronger across the board, no matter what the movements are. From there, we try to channel that strength into a little bit more ballistic work. I just basically summed the last, 90 years of performance training. But the reason I wanted to make sure I stopped and did that is because I don't want you getting yourself into this situation where you think the kettlebell swing by itself is the answer to all questions. If you got a chance to get some barbell deadlifts, some barbell squats, a couple other exercises. I'm always a fan of the military press. I think the bench press might even have some value in the deep off season for you. And then as you begin to transition over into the goblet squat, the kettlebell swing, I think there might be value if I'm in the kettlebell world right now, the Turkish getup, and of course there'd probably be some value in the clean and press. I think that would be a real good way to prep yourselves for the seasons. Now, I know in a lot of sports now, we go year round and there's always another competition and you're always getting on a plane or a car to go to the next one. But I think long term, this approach would really help you out a lot, Art. Thank you. Fun question. I'm a huge fan of the what the heck effect because I have felt it in my own career, which is kind of cool. It's funny when you think about all the different things in your training that could be the what the heck effect. Sometimes it's, obviously, let's just do this first. You get your 9 hours of sleeping every night. You're well hydrated. You drink water. You got your protein. You got your fiber. You got your veggies. Good for you. You meditate. Your stress levels are low. You're kind to puppies and kittens and babies. And from there, sometimes it gets a little hard to figure out what actually is helping performance. We talk a lot about standards in the inner circle, and I talk a lot about standards when I do other podcasts. And I think one of the great things about standards, so as an elite discus thrower, you got to snatch at least 250 and clean 300. We'll just leave those two. Getting up to standard very often, being strong enough at the minimal level of strength to do your sport very often gives you that what the heck effect. You might not, snatching 120 pounds might not help your international discus, and then 165 still might, but once you hit those certain numbers, you start to develop that what the heck effect in some of the other things. So if you're taking care of the basics, the fundamentals, and your strength training, you're strong enough for what you need to do, the next layer would be the what the heck effect stuff from the kettlebells. Thank you. Okay, John has a good question. What a beautiful name. He says, Dan, until I found your YouTube channel, I followed a traditional strength training program. As I understood it, I trained 3 to 5 days a week with 3 to 5 sets, 3 to 5 reps, and 3 to 5 compound exercises. There's actually a number of chapters in my books that are going to talk about something. I'm going to come right back to that in a minute, but I want to finish this. I kept everything simple, and I always used the weight on the bar to determine whether I was getting stronger. John, right there, that puts you ahead of probably 95% of the people I interact with. Listen to what John just said. When there's more weight on the bar, he figures he's stronger. You make me want to cry. Now that I'm approaching 60, what a young man you are, the aches, tweaks, and niggles have increased with time. Yeah. I feel like there's conflicting advice and not much of it in general for the older lifter. My question is, can an older lifter continue to make strength gains? Okay, I'm going to answer this right now. Yes, but it helps to make, it helps to not have done that lift since 1965. It's real hard for me to increase my snatch and clean. I cleaned 402 in a meet years ago, and I got to tell you, for me to do better than 182.5 kilos is just not going to happen this weekend. But can you continue to make strength gains? Yes, but I'm also going to throw in the asterisk. One of the things I wouldn't mind you comparing yourself to is other 60-year-olds you know. And I think you'll be very happy with this idea of you keep training. And how should one measure these gains? I've read that volume is the killer for the older lifter. I don't know about that. And that I should continue to lift heavy, but less often. Or is it the absolute weight on the bar that overstresses the tendons and ligaments as we age, thus requiring us to lift less absolute weight, but more often? I know what easy strength promotes, but I always assumed you still lifted heavy at different times of the year. In that case, do you still lift heavy? Well, okay, first off, in the Easy Strength Omni book, that book right there, I talk about simplifying strength training, and I use just a little different numbers. My numbers are 2, 3, 5. So it's 2, 3, or 5 days a week, 2, 3, or 5 exercises, 2, 3, or 5 sets, 2, 3, or 5 reps is kind of my simplest model of how to do easy strength. The issue for many people, of course, is that they need their hands held to make that decision. I have people ask me how many days a week they should train, and I say, the first thing is I have no idea what your situation is. So I'll say 5, and they'll say, I can't do 5 days a week. Then I'll say 3, and they say, I can't do 3. How about 2? I can do 2. Good. There was that mental calisthenics is killing me, because you should have just said, I can lift twice a week. So you have a lot of questions here. And the nice thing is that all of this has been answered before I was born. It's Heidegger's book, Heitinger's book, The Physiology of Strength. And one of the things we find it as we age, it's interesting. The word now is called health span, but I still like the original concept of strength span. So as we age, when you're young, you suddenly naturally build up to this great base of strength, and it lasts a long time. Then imperceptibly, it slowly tails off. What the health span or the strength span is this: all of us go at the same rate, but those of us who choose to lift weights get this little extra buffer. Now, what's great about that, even if you stop lifting weights, yeah, it'll drop down a little bit, but it'll still stay above normal, or what normal was for you. And as you move into the golden years of life, you will remain stronger than what you could have been, or all your neighbors at the senior center. And the bigger the gap is here, the healthier and healthier be the health span, the strength span idea. So you made a point that I don't agree with. You said that a lot of people say that higher volume is bad for the older lifter. The key is this, John. You need to have built into a year program, Ecclesiastes, there's a time for high reps, there's a time for low reps, there's a time for high volume, there's a time for low volume, there's a time to push it, there's a time to ease off. Let me just give you my classic real quick here, John, but I think it's even more true as I age. So I have always told people that I think the fall, and of course I'm an American, so this is going to be an American vision of things. In the fall is back to school time. That's when you have all your new organizers and your new books, and you haven't scribbled them in yet, and you got your new backpack, and you got your new school sweater and all that. It's the most disciplined time of the year. Here in the States, we play American football, which is a very, very disciplined game. So I think in the fall, most of us should do very structured strength training programs. For me, I like to do Dave Turner's 12-week peak program. He's my weightlifting coach. He also has other variations. But I like to do where on Monday I walk in and I look at the numbers and, okay, today I've got a snatch 165 and I got a clean and jerk 185. Ooh, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, that was a long weekend and now I got to warm up. In the winter, and most people I work with are in the Northern Hemisphere, so it's go heavy, go hard, go home. I like much shorter training programs in the winter. Shorter training programs for me are easy strength for fat loss. Any programs that are kind of tight, you get in there, you get the work done, and you get out. So for your example, in the fall, you would say, I'm going to lift 3 days a week, and I'm going to do Stephen Court's 3x3 program. And I know exactly what the weights are for the next 8 weeks. I know exactly what the weight on the bar is going to be for these 3 exercises, 3 days a week for the next 8 weeks. On day 1, you know what you're going to try to lift on week 7, day 2. In the winter, I like a little bit more flexibility because here, of course, I live in a place that gets a lot of snow, gets very cold. So for me, I do like a little bit more flexibility, which easy strength for fat loss and easy strength allows me to do. I mean, if it's just too cold, I'll get in there and do 2 sets of 5, boom, 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 and get out and get my walk in. In the spring, you want to move outside. You want to look better for the summer. That's the time you'd slide over to a hypertrophy program, higher volume. Instead of having the reps kind of peak at 5, you go sets of 8, sets of 10, sets of 12. And by the way, sets of 16 through 20 are also helped with by hypertrophy. So you could even push it to that. If you're going to go that high on hypertrophy programs, it might even be a better idea to put it to the next one, which is summer. In the spring, we're all getting outside. It's baseball season, it's track and field, we go outside. It's not wrestling, it's not basketball, it's not the indoor sports. We start the outdoor sports. And then, of course, summer comes around, and summer's the time to, play Frisbee on the beach, take walks in the mountains, hike around a beautiful valley and pick flowers and sing. So in the summer, I don't mind training programs that are quite brief, high reps. It might be a great time for complexes or circuit training or whatever you want to do. So John, that is just a basic, simple template of how to do things. I mean, just as simple as I could make it. But the idea is that at 60, everything starts to work. And you need to make sure you use all those different numbers. But don't just randomly throw them against the wall. Think it through. Think about your own schedule. Think about your vacations. Think about, if you have issues with having to do, child care, or you've got a busy time of year, you're an accountant, or say, and in February and March and April, you really can't be doing a 3-hour program every day. Adjust according to your local situations. I'm to the point now in my career that I think just about everything in the weight room works. Sadly, it only works for about 6 weeks usually, some things. So you have to constantly have a little bit of variation, a little bit of insight. I hope that helped, John. It is a good question, and thank you. If you have more questions, ping me another round and let's talk again. All right? Thank you. We got a question from Nav, and he says this. I am 45 years old. I had shoulder surgery 3 months ago. Boy, we are in a plague of shoulder surgeries right now. I get one surgery question a week from the shoulders. I've been going to PT twice a week and will hopefully be ready to return to lifting weights in another 4 to 6 weeks. Good. My problem, which I'm hoping you can help me with, is that I have many goals and do not know where to start. I have not been doing much exercise besides going for walks and physical therapy, and have become both skinny and fat at the same time. I also play ice hockey and would like to go back to playing within 6 months. My question, which is hopefully generalizable to your audience, is where do I start? I would like to look better, get stronger, and build some armor so I don't get injured again. My plan was to do easy strength with some ABC once or twice a week, followed by mass made simple once I've regained some strength. So this is actually a pretty easy question for me, Nav, because you kind of answered it yourself, but now let me give you some permission. Since you feel like you're skinny fat, I would attack that first, and I would recommend easy strength for fat loss. So reminder, you're going to do your push, your pull, your deadlift variation, ab wheels, suitcase carry, and then go for a walk. You try to do that 5 days a week. I'd love it if you do it fasted. I'd love it if you did it with a whole bunch of coffee, delicious, in your belly. But I think that's where you start, because I think what you want to do is nudge the needle a little bit after the surgery. The other thing that's nice about easy strength is in the first 2, 3, even 4 weeks, you can be very gentle on that injured shoulder. You can really take your time with it. Reminder is to anybody who has a hand, a wrist, elbow, a shoulder injury, is if train the offside as hard as you can. The body is one piece, so when the blood goes around, it doesn't just go to the muscles that we're working, it also goes everywhere else too, which is something I can't believe I have to explain to some people. After that, I'd go a good 2 months on that as appropriate, with permission from your PT. I have a new book coming out on using the armor building complex plus high rep presses. I think 6 to 8 weeks, or just follow it, as designed, I think would be the way to go. Very simply, you're going to alternate. One workout is the ABC, the next work is high rep presses. ABC, high rep press, ABC, high rep press. Generally, I recommend that 3 days a week. On the other days, I still think you should be doing those exercises to help that shoulder kind of regain the mobility, the flexibility, and those weird little shoulders are a little different, huh? There's a lot of muscles in the shoulder, and you got to make sure you kind of build up the whole orchestra of the muscles surrounding the shoulders. So make sure you do all those little strange exercises they give you, and make sure you're working on all those other all those different muscles besides, those impressive ones, those barnyard wide shoulders. Easy strength for fat loss first, that armor builder high rep press workout second, and then finally, for your hockey, if you can find 6 weeks to do mass made simple, I think there'd be real value for it. After all the squats from armor building, your legs will be ready to go. And I think this is a good idea. The biggest problem I see is that we're looking at 2 months for easy strength, at least 3 to 4 months for the armor building hypertrophy stuff, and then 6 weeks for the mass made simple. We're over that we're over that kind of 6-month time period you gave me. But if you take your time on recovering from any injury, I think is always better. Marvelous question. Again, if you have more detailed questions, get back to me. The other thing I would recommend you do, if you don't mind, if you're not a member of danjohnuniversity.com, please join, and so I can help kind of walk you through your training program and these little adjustments we're making. Okay, thanks. We got a question about Justin, and it's not a question I really wanted to answer, but these kind of things come up a lot. Mike Mentzer talks a lot about training the late Mike Mentzer talks a lot about training one set to failure and doing the minimum amount of training to achieve the desired result. A lot of his training methodology lines up with how you seem to approach programming, such as avoiding injury and overtraining. That's interesting. I've never had my work compared to a high-intensity trainer or Nautilus trainer. That's kind of interesting. Keeping workouts to a sustainable amount of time invested. Yes, I agree with that. Respecting the value of rest and recovering. Eating a balanced diet rather than jumping on fads, etc. Contrary to Mr. Mentzer, though, I know you're a believer in volume over time for strength training and hypertrophy. Yeah, because that seems to work. And there's plenty of science that support that as well. Right. So, Justin, you're already falling into the problem. And don't take this wrong, but you can find strength and conditioning science that will agree with anything you say. By the way, I'm a huge believer in isometrics for about 6 weeks. I've proved it several times with myself, many of my clients, that, training at a specific place, a certain part of a lockout really does work well. But the problem is, once you've done that, it's not kind of repeatable in the same spot. I've been getting a lot of materials in the last few years from people who are retiring their strength and conditioning libraries. And I've been going deep into a lot of the isometric work that people did in the early 60s. And I got to tell you, it's still valid to talk about today. So a 12-second contraction, which is actually about a 6-second contraction, and thank you to the late Dick Smith to explain that to me. Real quick, if it says 12 seconds, it's real hard to get yourself geared up to get that. It takes a few seconds to get yourself in that position to hit with 100% intensity, and then you start to fail off. So it might be a 12-second hit, but only 6 of them are at the intensity levels we're looking for. And by the way, that's perfectly. Real quick, I hate to make these segues because I lose the flow of the questions, but you can find practically anything that supports anything you think in the research. 1 set, 2 set, 3 sets, 5. I feel like I'm at Sesame Street now. You can just about find anything that proves anything. What I like is that I still work with track and field. We had a question earlier about swimming. Those 2 sports are what keep me grounded, and Olympic lifting, to be honest with you too. If you're going to try something and it works for track and field athletes, I'm comfortable enough saying, okay, we have some confirmation by the tape measure or the stopwatch that this is working. And there's plenty. I know that Mike Mentzer trained bodybuilders and was one himself, actually a very good bodybuilder. And it follows suit that his training methodologies and studies were specific to people training to build the most muscle in the least amount of time, and not at all would be applicable for regular guys like me. It's interesting. I don't have many more. I think Mike Brown has them, but I had his 2 original books. And in his books, he talks about Olympic lifting in one of them. I think it might be the first edition. And one of the things when you read his books, at least the mass marketed ones, is when you get to his advanced bodybuilder section, it's a couple of pre-exhaustion things. And frankly, when I remember getting the books, I was a little disappointed. But there's probably been more written about him since he died than he wrote in his lifetime. And there's all these additional things that I don't know if he said or didn't say, but there's volumes more of his work. So Here is my question. What value do you find Mike Mentzer's body of work, and where and how, if at all, do you think regular guys like me could benefit from implementing some of his training principles? The knock I always had, and I'm not proud of this, but I spent 2 full years of my career. I bought into Nautilus training 100%, and I did everything. I have my journal entries back there, and I do note some changes in my body, but it broke my heart to watch my discus go from 190s and farther to 170s, 160s, and 150s. The number one thing I discovered with high intensity training, and it's something he discussed a lot, is that if you first start training 3 days a week, pretty soon that's too much. So you have to drop to 2 days a week, or work out 2 days off, work out 2 days off, work out 2 days off. And you're constantly chasing less and less and less. I have met some of the people who have done who did some of the original stuff. And one of the things they do recommend is that we didn't get the whole story from Arthur Jones and Casey Viator. I have Casey's books in here, and they're very interesting. But I also talked to some people who said that's not really what happened. You can read all this, if you can find them, in the old muscle and fitness magazines when Arnold reported on going to Nautilus and his discussions with Arthur Jones. And of course, if you believe all of the legends that came out of there, good for you. But, it's legendary, which means it didn't necessarily have to happen. The value in this kind of one set to failure would be this, Justin, is that maybe there's a time in your life where you want to go to a gym and, if you have a good training partner, go to failure on a number of machines and go to absolute bone-crushing failure. If you did that 3 days a week for about 6 weeks, you probably would make good progress in certain things. It's always that 6-week problem. After that, your mileage may vary. I go online a lot, and I actually get attacked by a number of these people, which breaks my heart, because it's not like I'm in a fight with these guys. I won't say anything. Okay, I'm not. I'm not gonna. It's just not the way I do things. But I have a whole bunch of the copies of the Hard Gainer magazine and all that stuff, and the Minimalist Approach. One of my favorite stories, and he was a good friend of mine, Lane Cannon. He was a real believer in hard gainers, though interesting, he was not a hard gainer. But he got himself up to a 405 trap bar deadlift for 20 reps. Now, folks, that's a lot of reps with 405. Gave himself a break and then tested his max and got 425, which is not a great lift. And he called me right after it. He was my student, and then I was his coach. And this is probably 15, 20 years after he graduated. And we started training together. And actually, he was the one who helped me the most understand how this works. There's great value in high intensity training. There's great value in one set to failure. And then it ends. And that's the hard part. Now, it's interesting because I guarantee that our little friends on the HIT side are going to, because they check the Google every day, and they instantly flood into a site when you critique their materials. And I probably will get a lot of weird comments down below here, but I stand by it. Here's the thing I've thought my entire life. When Nautilus was at its heyday, they had a lot of money. I'm talking about a ton of money. Wouldn't it have been great if they had taken some of that money and invested it in an Olympic lifting team, a powerlifting team, a track and field team, and a swimming team? They had the money. They could have made the facilities. It could have been a world-class thing, and had all those track and field athletes do these training modalities, as I used to read all the time, and prove it. If their throwers throw farther, doing one set to failure on the adduction machine. They're right, I'm wrong. And they never did that. With Olympic lifting, I remember the big thing, they used to always have a picture of Phil Grappaldi. They would always say Phil Grappaldi was demonstrating strength, not building strength. Phil's clean and jerk at 190 kilos, 418. He was simply demonstrating strength. Folks, I got to tell you from the heart, if you've ever had 418 on the bar, I don't care what you're doing. If you move that bar, you're not just demonstrating strength, you're probably building it too. But that's enough for now. I'm never comfortable talking about this particular kind of training. I feel it's like talking about CrossFit. No matter what I say, the CrossFit disciples will come in hard, or I talked about CrossFit one time and someone said they're going to stop going to my channel because I talked about CrossFit. And I was like, you have to actually listen to what I said. But it's a tough conversation. A lot of people got very invested in this training program, and it's just something. And I have a whole bunch of articles up there when it was in its heyday, and frankly, nothing said in any of those magazine articles can really stand the light of modern training. Okay, all right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for that question. Now I have to deal with all the repercussions. Thank you. I've got a question from David. Hi, David. He says this. I'm gonna answer both questions separately just to keep things clear. As I also enjoy the Humane Burpee complex as well as push-ups and inverted suspension trainer rows, what would be your recommendations for including a small amount of these into the Easy Strength program without compromising the benefits? For example, on one day a week, you could substitute the 75 swings with the basic Humane Burpee. I think he means the basic Humane Burpee, I think you mean this, 15 swings, 5 push-ups, check that, 15 swings, 5 goblet squats, 5 push-ups, 15 swings, 4 goblet squats, 4 push-ups, 15 swings, 3 goblet squats, 3 push-ups, 15 swings, 2 goblet squats, 2 push-ups, 15 swings, 1 goblet squat, 1 push-up. I'm going to answer that, and it's such a simple answer for me, but let's continue. And on another day, adding a couple of sets of rows and push-ups, 8 to 12 reps at the workout would be too much. No, I think what most people miss about Easy Strength, and I don't know how I can tell it better. The job of Easy Strength is to get you as strong as you can with the least amount of hit on all your other systems. So David, if you're a long distance runner, you would do Easy Strength in complementing your running. If you're a triathlete, you would do Easy Strength to complement your bicycle, swim, run. If you're a thrower, certain times a year, you do Easy Strength to complement your throw, your drills, your overweight implements, your competitions. So adding anything to Easy Strength is always fine. That's Easy Strength for fat loss, really. It's just simply, you do Easy Strength, you go for a walk. I mean, it's kind of hard when you summarize all your work like that, but it's true. So yes, absolutely. There are a few people who are doing the armor building complex with Easy Strength, and I would kind of stick more. My advice would be more like what you're saying here, David. Do it once a week, and then maybe supplement it with something else once a week. If you're looking at, heating up the body, getting that intensity levels up. Good question. So yes, the answer is absolutely anything you decide to complement with Easy Strength is fine. And by the way, that's complement with an E, okay? I think I've said this before on the podcast that I did a workshop, and I wrote all training is complementary with an E, and the person running the workshop changed it to an I. All training is complementary. My gosh, what a lovely gym outfit you have today. They're different words. Okay, the second question David has. My main fitness goal is to hit a modest standard of pressing the 25 kilo bell for 5 reps. Good, that's good. That's what we expect at the RKC. Having achieved that with a 20K last year. While Easy Strength seems like a great way to gently nudge up the press, I often hear you recommend higher volume ladder-based approaches to achieve the same goal. How would you compare and contrast the two approaches, and when would you recommend one over the other, and maybe even cycling them, trying to make this sound like an either-or question? Thank you. Okay, a lot of it's how you're wired. When it comes to me for pressing and squatting, I can build my strength up with more volume. I don't know if it's just the way I got wired at birth. I don't know if that's how I've trained for so many years, and maybe that's what I do. But I know that on those two particular movements, I can improve with higher volume. Then I sit down with somebody else and it's like, listen, when I'm going heavy, if I'm trying to improve, I just got to just keep greasing those twos, those threes, those fives. 2, 3, 5. This is my favorite ladder for pressing. 2, 3, 5. 2, 3, 5. 2, 3, 5. Your question I like is, and I'm going to answer it, I do think that some level of cycling is best. When I do this new armor building complex hypertrophy program, I really emphasize the higher rep pressing stuff. And what's interesting is some of the feedback, in fact, I just got a really nice text today about it, is that this person's press has really improved because pressers press, squatter squat, deadlift, sprinter sprint. You got the whole drill. So the more presses this person did, he's doing the 2, 3, 5, 10 ladders. So for him, he's getting a whole bunch of rough, tough reps at the end of those 10s, but he's not beating himself up. So he's coming into those 10s a little pre-fatigued. And so when he hits 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that reasonably lighter weight for you, maybe a 16 kilo bell, is actually become heavier, so to speak, with the reps as you go through. So one of the things I'm just thinking about is, and I also already gave you a nice idea, if you do 2, 3, 5, 10, you'll get the best of both worlds, the higher volume and the ladders. But you might want to play around with a 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5 for a couple of weeks. Just keep, every round of 2, 3, 5 is 10 reps. So if you're going to do this twice a week, maybe have one day where you do 5 rounds of that, 50 reps, and another day where you do like 3, 30 reps. Do that twice a week, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, see how you're doing. And then from there, jack up the volume, go to 2, 3, 5, 10, 2, 3, 5, 10, 2, 3, 5, 10. The problem with 2, 3, 5, 10 is that that's 20 reps. So just doing 2 rounds is 40 reps, Doing 5 rounds, not shockingly, is 100. I often do 5 rounds of 2, 3, 5, 10 because I like the feeling of those 100 reps. I feel good after I do them. I don't know what's happening, if it's the hormones or the press happiness, but I feel good. So if you're just using the 20 and you can get those 5 reps, let me just add, if all you have is a 20, I'm just going to add, and this is just special for you. Think 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, and try to get yourself the volume up, just nudging it up with the 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Do that at least 2 or 3 workouts before you introduce the 5, because I don't want you just, flailing on 5s when you really got to make sure you're hitting that groove on those 2, 3s. I hope that helped. These are 2 good questions. These are the kind of questions I wish I'd get at that at the RKCs, because those are the questions I like to answer the best. Okay, Jonathan asks a question. Hi, Jonathan. I'm entering the last week of the 10,000 swing challenge, which I'll be completing for the first time. Good for you, and I hope you finish it. It's been completely awful, but it's the best bus bench program I've ever done, and has completely changed my mind regarding the value of the swing. But listen to this, folks. Listen to his results. Waist size is down 2 inches in 3 weeks. That's huge. Good job. And residual back pain solved. So your waist is down, your back feels better. Quite a result for 15 workouts. My question doesn't relate to the challenge, but rather how it has showed me how I end up chasing too many rabbits with my training. At the end of the challenge, I will be at the best of kettlebell swings I've ever been, technically, yeah. I struggle to let a new skill go. I often end up tacking new skills at the end of existing programs in order that I don't get worse at the skill it took me a lot of effort to get at. I am the best at swings I've ever been, and I don't want to be rubbish again when I next attempt the challenge next January. Given that you often speak regarding training seasonally, how do you ensure you don't lose significant abilities by moving between different programs? I like this, and the answer, of course, is to keep them in, not 500 a day. Now, for a while, and I've got all these workouts I put together, I thought minimum you could do 300 a day. And then I realized that's too much. So we slid it down to 250, and I have all these workouts. I don't know what book they would be in, but I've got a whole, they called their workouts Group A through Group F, I think they are. And I just came up with all these great variations, and I'm so proud of all the work I did. And then I realized that 250 swings a workout is a lot for a lot of people. It was something like this. You would do 15 swings and a set of push-ups, 35 swings and a mobility exercise for the upper body. You would do 15 swings and a goblet squat, 35 swings and a lower body stretch, 15 swings and a pull variation, 35 and a lat stretch, So basically we're mixing 15, 35, 15, 35 with a strength move, a flexibility move, mobility move, and back and forth till you tallied up to 250. Now, every round of that was 50 reps, so it really didn't take long to do, and we used to mix and match two of them back to back. Then we rethought again, and thanks for all the people who train with me, all my guinea pigs, you poor fine people. We then said, probably it's 125 is the bare minimum. Now I'm more to the number, Jonathan, 75. And that's 5 sets of 15 or whatever variation you want to get to, okay? But what I would do is maybe in some of my best training programs ever, we would do, as a warm-up, you do a set of 15 and you do a big global stretch. You do a set of 15 and you do the opposite. If you know what my stony stretch is, so maybe set of 15 swings, stony stretch with the left knee down. Set of 15 swings, stony stretch, right knee down. Windmill stick, left, 15 swings. Windmill stick, right, 15 swings. And then maybe 6-point rocks, 15 swings. So there you go. You've got, if I said it wrong, I apologize, but you just got 75 swings in, but you also got your mobility work in. So maybe pick 5 nice global stretches that you like, that you can do all the time, that you will do all the time, and mix it in with 5 sets of 15. I like swings in the warm-up period. It does wonders for my hamstrings, my calves, because the hamstrings insert behind the calf, my lower back, my glutes. I feel it in my lats, my abs, and it's a wonderful way to get yourself warmed up. I actually like the word lubricated when you do this particular workout because of all that dynamic hinge work you're getting. Great question. If that doesn't work, stick them at the end of the workout, like you suggested. Both are fine. In fact, at the end of a workout, that 5 sets of 15 might be really good to do with some more traditional stretches, a butterfly stretch. I call it the Raggedy Ann stretch, but any of those long stretch movements. Though not a lot of people can mix stretching with swings. Your mileage may vary on that, gentle listener. Thank you. Great question. I've got a question from Barry. Barry says this: I'm a big fan of easy strength. I'm in my 3rd round. I'm 59 years old, 6'4", weighs 220. I have moderate athletic experience. My question is, would you put Turkish Getups as one of the easy strength 5 exercises? I'm thinking perhaps instead of the ab wheel. What are your thoughts? I like this idea. Pat Flynn does an interesting thing. He says, do 5 minutes of Turkish Getups. I'm wondering if that might be the secret to this, Barry, if you're going to put Turkish Getups in. Because saying 5 left, 5 right, 10 left, 10 right, Turkish Getups are weird with time. We'll be at a certification, and I'll notice that some people seem to just fly through a Turkish Getup, and other people's boom, 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 boom. Okay, so maybe set a timer, and I want you to experiment with this a little bit. Say, yeah, try something as long as 5 minutes the first time, and just do one left, come down, do one right, come down, do one left, come, and then the timer goes off, and you can get a sense of where you start to go, this is enough. I would play around with it, maybe in a week, maybe have a day with 5s, have a day with 3s, and have one day with 5, 2 days with 3 minutes, 2 days with 2 minutes. There you go. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. As always, with the Turkish Getup, done correctly, I think it's an excellent exercise. Seeing what I see online, done correctly, it's an excellent exercise. Done incorrectly, it don't look good. All right, great. Kind of a simple question. Thank you, Barry. We got a question from Logan that actually is kind of a fun one. I'm starting a men's community kettlebell club next month with a friend of mine who's used kettlebells for 12 years. Also a big fan of your podcast. Yeah, but you'll notice, Logan, you sent the question in. So you're a bigger fan, okay? We see kettlebells as not only effective, efficient, and fun way to stay fit and strong, but also one cure for male isolation, which is epidemic in our society. That's really interesting. Probably outside of my, above my pay grade kind of thing, yeah. But I like what you said there. How do you suggest we welcome newcomers to catch the bug for kettlebells, experience the fun of using them, which would normally imply doing several different exercises, but still keeping them safe as a team? This feels like a tough balance to strike. We don't want to bore them in the early stages and lose their interest. So I've had several kettlebell clubs, and if you go to my website, danjohnuniversity.com, you'll find the PDF called the Coyote Point Kettlebell Club. It's 51 pages. It's funny, I find it on these sites that they steal intellectual property and then they post them up. Well, it's free, so I don't know why you would ever pay for this nonsense. But a couple of keys. First off, it'd be great if you had Dan Martin show up. He's my good friend from Oakland, California. And he would drive across the bay when I lived there and bring egg salad sandwiches, which were wonderful, and just a lot of enthusiasm. What you need is you just need to invite people, and it is. I'm going to tell you how I do it, and it's also how I do in my inner circle. For some of you, or you'll recognize where we got this from. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm 67, and I like kettlebells, and my favorite exercise is the goblet squat. Hi, I'm Bernard. I'm 28, and I love doing Turkish Getups. And you go around, you all introduce yourselves, and then the thing is, you also ask, how much knowledge do you have? Very often it's none. So if you don't have a lot of knowledge with the group, then you focus on certain things like the push-up position plank, push-ups, teach the goblet squat, teach the 6-point rock to the goblet squat, maybe teach the hip thrust, follow the hip thrust with the Bulgarian goat bag swing, maybe teach just the basic movements, the rolls of the Turkish Getup. The key is this. It's always going to be a teaching day. You're always going to be bringing in new people. And what you want is you and your friend with the skills, with the knowledge and the coaching, you want to coach coaches to coach other people. So you want to build up the community that people feel very welcome to help and assist push the whole thing forward. And I think if you can do that, it's going to be great. The one thing I found really helpful, I would love to say we did a lot of swings. We had one day, boy, I don't know what it was. My old friends could remind me. I think we did 800 swings or something like that, because the idea was to do a mobility move followed by a swing and a set of swings. And so So I would lead it and I would say, okay, we're going to do the starfish. It's in the book. And then 20 swings. And then we go to you and you would say, we're going to do the can opener or whatever stretch it is. And then 20 swings or 25 swings, whatever it was. And then you just go around the group and everyone has to come up with a stretch or a mobility movement. And if someone does, I don't know any, then you got to be prepared to jump in with another one. And we just kept going in circles. And that flexibility, mobility swing day was one of the best coaching, learning, and teaching experiences in my career. Because I realized that if you have a group of adults and they do 25 swings or whatever it was, followed by mobility or a flexibility move, and you just stay out there, people begin to discover things about the way their bodies knit together. And I got to tell you from the heart, I've done a lot of things in my coaching career. Discus camp in Denison, yeah, that probably was the greatest. I love that. I'm thinking about a lot of opportunities with my coaching American football and my throwers, yeah. But right there is the Coyote Point Kettlebell Club and these great little experiments we did. I hope you have those kind of memories when you look back on it, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. That's the key if you ask me, okay? Have everybody have some level of ownership. We used to do it at parks, so we had to drive there. And we had to get the kettlebells out there, so everyone had to help out. We had to bring the water out, so everybody had to help out. And I still look back on that as some of the best memories of my career. I hope it works. I think it is I love your idea here, and I hope it works. I'm supporting you 100%, okay? Well, good question. Hey, well, there you go. That's episode 243, I think I said. Yep, 243. That's a lot of episodes, and I'm proud to be part of it. If you have questions, you'll send them to the podcast at this address, podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I'll sit down next week and answer everyone that comes in. And until then, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.